Will be recorded. Okay, we're all set. Thank you all for joining today. This is the 5th webinar for the VATI 2021 project, and Jason Inofuentes and Mike Culp will be hosting, along with Trish Stepanovich from CenturyLink Lumen and Dolores Carroll, also from CenturyLink Lumen. Introducing both Dolores and Trish, they've been working with us on every webinar. So we're really excited to have everyone here. We'll sort of skip all of the general introduction. One thing to note, if you have specific questions that are more along the lines of address included, the best way to get answers to that is to send an email to baao@albemarle.org. BAAO is short for the Broadband Accessibility and Affordability Office, which Jason and I run. So hopefully we'll see emails about addresses and we'll answer them as quickly as we can. So we appreciate the process where addresses come to us via email in a more private manner. So just to let you know, that's the best way to get answers to your questions about MI included. And then, as Jason has put up here on the screen, the Q&A function, we will be taking questions at the end, not so much during the initial presentation. So just post your questions as they come up and we'll address them toward the end. So we stay on schedule and get the information that we have available to you out as soon as possible. Jason, you want to take the next slide?
Sure. So the VATI program, so this is the Virginia Telecommunications Initiative. It was came out of the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development. And this is, I believe, the 5th or 6th year that the program's been running. It has been an incredible opportunity for Virginians to get access to high-speed broadband. DHCD is the state agency that handles administering their end of the program, so the actual competitive bids for these programs. But every bid has to come with a private and a public partner. In this case, the public partner is the Albemarle Broadband Authority, which, if you don't know much about it, you're welcome to email us and ask us some questions about it. They meet monthly, and it is a great group of committed individuals that are interested in expanding broadband availability in Albemarle County. This particular project, DHCD has committed $2.3 million of state funding. The Albemarle Broadband Authority has committed about $640,000 of county funding. And our partner is Lumen, who you may know as CenturyLink, and as you might see later, is also Quantum. And this is 10 project areas that are going to involve over 1,600 new fiber passings. If you're saying, what is fiber? This is the kind of the current state of the art when it comes to broadband technology, which allows 1 gigabit per second up and down symmetrical service, which far exceeds any standard for broadband that we have right now, and is really just about the best service that you can get right now. Now, we did want to address the email that all of you received yesterday, and that some of you received notice about earlier in the week. We were made aware of delays in 3 of the project areas that were supposed to launch yesterday. We have asked Lumen, they're here with us today, to share some details regarding these delays and the impacts that it will have on this project. Our office remains committed to administering this project and will continue to coordinate with Lumen and DHCD to affect the right outcome for our residents. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and just offer Trish an opportunity to share some of what we've asked about with regards to the delays, and then we can move into the rest of the presentation.
Sure, I can at least provide some context. We have some additional details on what those delays look like for the broader group. As you all can imagine, and if you look in our nightly news, there are instances of where global chain supply issues are arising. And we do have some occasion of that happening in our market as well. We have been working steadfastly with our procurement organizations as well as our vendor organizations to address some of the concerns and timeliness of the equipment that we're waiting, that we had aligned towards our project timelines. Certainly last year, we would not have known about the equipment that we felt like was going to be arriving on time. Like many vendors, we were aware of our project and certainly have been putting in our equipment needs into those orders quite well in advance. And as plastics and materials like steel and other items are becoming delayed, it's starting to put a backlog into the supply chain. So we do have delays. We're trying to work as quickly to resolve those. And we do have, we have been providing, Mike, we gave a delay last month in our webinar for the one market already that we knew that were going to be delays in. And we've got just a little bit of delay here on of the three. I think we'll have some good news on the one for our Tillman and Meriwether. That is still going to show for today's, we should be able to order for those for today. And our delay for our spring, I want to say Spring Hill, but it's not the one I'm thinking of. Snow Hill is going to be just delayed by like 2 weeks at this time. So we've been able to improve from the end of the month to, I think, to the 2 weeks. Our Gilbert station, unfortunately, we are going to have to extend it. We do not have firm dates from the vendors and or suppliers as to when they will give us a firm date that we can actually backdate into what our commitment's going to be. So we shared that last month that we were already delayed, and we're officially, we have not been able to make solid improvement to bring that date back into the original schedule. And so that will be, reflected on the schedule today. So yeah, we're all working through it. It's not just Lumen. It is a national and global supply chain sort of ripple that we're all feeling. And so we're just working through to address that as quickly as we can and get our projects done as close to the timeline as we originally committed. So we appreciate your patience as we work through this together, and we'll keep updating Mike and Jason and the team, as we get further details, and certainly during our town hall meetings.
Thanks for that. All right, I'm going to go back to my screen here. And again, anybody that has, where did it go? Anybody that has any questions, please feel free to use that Q&A function. And if there's any difficulty with that, raise your hand and we'll be able to try to address your concerns. But with that, we will in fact throw it back over to Trish and Dolores to continue our presentation.
Thank you, Jason. So our first slide here is, again, just a reiteration of what VATI is and why it's important to all of us, including Lumen, because it is an investment in our communities and moving Virginia forward in terms of critical aspects of whether that's for our schools, whether it's for our businesses and communities to continue to grow. So we're very much committed to that. The one thing you heard Jason mention, you heard CenturyLink, and he mentioned quantum fiber at the end. CenturyLink and quantum fiber are technically product names within the Lumen umbrella. So CenturyLink is our product for mass markets for what you traditionally know as your copper-based services. And our quantum fiber is reflective of us migrating to a brand new platform for our fiber inventory and network equipment, and also our platform for ordering and hosting our services. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but I wanted to make sure you understand that those are not necessarily different company names. They're just really product names that we offer under the umbrella. All right. So this slide just wanted to ground everybody as to where we've been and where we're going. So on the left-hand side, we've got the webinars. So officially, we're going to get our 5, I think, on the radar here. And you got the timelines for when to join us on the Fridays. And then on the top of the chart here, we've just sort of started back how early this project began for both our partnership. And, that started with back last year in April, working our way through the project, looking at the different entities and neighborhoods and our process for, getting started once we had received funding. Once we had gotten the state funding approved and award given to Lumen, we really began our effort in terms of, last quarter of the year working on our completed projects for Jones Mill, and Old Garth Heights. So we're down now into the March 31st, where you see Tillman and Meriwether, and you can see our timeline for our schedule for the next little while here. And the next slide will show the same thing, and it'll just show sort of a map view of those neighborhoods, if we can move to that. So the items in yellow are the ones that we were just discussing. So we are, today, you should be able to go into, if you are in the neighborhood of Tillman and Meriwether, go ahead and put your services request in for installations. Snow Hill Lane, we were anticipating to have that done today as well. We have about a 2-week delay. We thought that could have been a little bit longer, but it is looking like we're going to be able to wrap up before the 15th and have that completed. And part of that delay was a little different. We did have, we were waiting on some locating in partnership with the private water utility there. We've resolved that, and so we're able to complete that work. And in fact, neighbors, if you're in that neighborhood, you should be able to see our teams working and finalizing that in the next couple of days. And then the larger changes are going to be for Gilbert Station and for Advanced Mill, Frey Road neighborhoods. The Gilbert Station, we had originally last month thought that we would be able to work through our procurement teams to get to an April 30th date. We have continued to work through that. It's not working. We're not getting a firm date that we feel comfortable in offering just, even in May. So we have extended that to June 30th, as well as for the Advanced Mills. That was a May date and has been moved to June 30th as well. These are, in fact, estimated dates. We do not yet have firm confirmation of our equipment. And so, I have a disclaimer down on the bottom, just so that you understand our position from Lumen. We certainly, from our engineering teams, work to build and design things. And we understand that we're not always going to be able to, to be able to plan ahead for every contingency. We certainly do. But there are items that will be outside of our control, despite even our best efforts to work throughout those to get them resolved. And we've just noted here that, we are working to get those dates pulled in to keep on top of our original schedule, but we certainly didn't want to overcommit at this time. And these dates could still be, adjusted as we get, whether we're able to pull that in, or if that supply chain issue isn't resolved, we will keep you updated as to the progress on that. Okay. So if you're new to our webinar, one of the things that we don't want to assume is that you understand how the ordering process works and what to expect. So we've got this kind of a 3-step process just to kind of help you walk you through. We have an opportunity on Q.com. If you are interested in our products and materials, we have ways for you to be able to let us know that. We generally see that within about 60 days of the market launch dates that you saw on the previous page. That lets us know, yes, I'm interested. When it gets within a certain date range of the market launch date, you'll actually be able to do an installation request. So just wanted to let you know, Q.com is the new site to go to for quantum fiber orders. You may have been going to CenturyLink.com. That is for our legacy product. So just want to make sure you're understanding the change in that process. Ordering for quantum fiber is really a full digital experience. So it does not require you to actually engage with an agent on the phone. That process is as simple as like an Amazon subscription or subscribing to a streaming service. So it is available for you to be able to order online. You have a prepaid product, and it allows you to turn on and off at your own availability and your choosing. So we've really tried to not just incrementally increase the opportunities of improving your experience, but really step function that into what we come to experiences and our consumer behaviors today. Once you have actually placed an order, there is some pre-work that does need to be done. It's called our buried site check. So we are using new services and new equipment and lines going to your home. So this service is not run
We lost Trish on this, so. Jason, you still there? Wow. Dolores, you and I are the only ones on the call. Wow.
Not sure what's going on.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe a Zoom issue.
We lost the slide deck as well, I guess, because
Yeah, I'll move on trying to provide the slide deck quickly. See if I can get that going. I think Jason lost power too. All right. Moving as quickly as possible. So bear with us, everybody who's still on. Now I'll share my screen. This guy. Okay, we were on this guy. So what to expect? I'll try to take it from here as Trish comes back on. Hopefully everybody can see this. I'll do my best. Once the utility locates happen, I think it's important. We've had a couple of questions this week about what are known as private utilities. And if you have dog fences, electricity going out to self-installed lighting, those types of things need to be protected and marked. The recommendation is to use a certified utility marking company to come out and help you with that. Especially important for things like sewage, fields, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, if you know where they are, please mark them. If you need help, there are certified utility marking companies that are on the Miss Utility 811, Virginia811.com site that'll allow you to hire someone to come in and do those quick markings for you. Once that's all done, the 2-hour appointment arrival windows, those are times when an adult needs to be around the house to make sure that the Quantum Tech or the CenturyLink Lumen Tech can come in and make those connections. You know, it's a great time to ask the tech to verify speed tests. So one tip we give people is when that happens, you know, make sure you talk to the tech, and they're professional. I think they do a really good job from what we've heard, and just get as much information from the individual as you can. So the next slide here is, you know, it gives you a little bit of an indication of what's going on with the pricing. So a very competitive pricing, and going back to what Trish had mentioned before, these are prepaid. So you pay in advance for the next month's service. One of the things that we've talked about before is that you can start at the 200 level and bump it up to 940 if you like, or vice versa. If you find that you're doing well with 940 and you want to save some money during the next month, you can drop your service down to 200 and see a less costly install, or not install, but service. Okay. So the check availability, this one's been a little bit of a challenge. I think there's been some addresses that were preloaded prior to the 60-day launch. So there were some people who were able to go in and make those orders. This specifically has happened with the Gilbert Station Road installation. So, you know, Quantum is working on correcting that and making sure the rest of the installs don't have that specific problem. But, you know, Jason will hear from Quantum, or I will hear from Quantum when things are available. And then generally what we've been doing, since we have the 10 project areas separated into individual email distribution lists, we'll send an email out to people letting them know that their time has come to place their installation order. So this is the type of thing you'll see once we get there. So the next slide is about what you'll see. This is an example of what happens if your address hasn't been loaded. So there's a difference between if your address has been loaded, it'll take you through the install process. If it hasn't been loaded, you'll receive a notify me type notice. And generally, you put your email in, and the mobile number is optional, but a lot of communication through email. So make sure you've got the correct email when you put it in there, and you'll receive notices when your turn to order has come. So in the case where they're not available, this is the same type of thing that comes back, and you can click on the notify me when Quantum Fiber Internet becomes available. There's also a chat function which you can utilize and see if they'll give you some more information about scheduling and that sort of thing. So on the Quantum site, there's a frequently asked questions, and a lot of the questions that are on the broadband site on albemarle.org are repeated in the Quantum Fiber site. So there's really two places where you can get answers to your questions. So either one of those will provide answers. The other way, if you have a specific question, we're glad to help in the broadband office. You can send an email to baao@albemarle.org, and we'll help answer your questions. We've had a number of questions that have come in that have indicated an update was needed to our frequently asked questions. So we've been updating them practically on a monthly basis. So the latest version out there is from earlier in March, but as we get additional questions that are valuable answers, we'll post them to that. So yeah, check those locations. So the support, there's a lot of great support resources that are available on the Quantum site. So if you look to the right on this up the top banner, when you visit Quantum Fiber, if you go to the support location right here, these types of questions come up. So it's more technical support, and those types of questions will be in here. They have frequently asked questions about the equipment that will be installed outside your house, as well as the modem that will be installed inside of your house. So it's a really good way to get answers to some of the big questions that people have about specifics on the technical part of this. So this is just an example where you'll see what type of modems are provided, and by clicking on each of those modems, it'll give you detail on what types of services are provided through the individual modems. So just wanted to make sure everyone knows that we have at the albemarle.org site, we have frequently asked questions, and to repeat that the project was funded and supported in collaboration with the Commonwealth of Virginia Telecommunication Initiative. So let me get back, and I'll ask Mr. Eno Fuentes to take the next couple of slides, and I'll just keep running here. I'll keep running the slides. I'm promoting you to panelist, Jason. So everybody hold on, and thanks for staying on with us. We really appreciate it. And we will get to the questions and answers. So just hang with us with that little bit of delay. I need to promote anyone else who's in there too, but let me get to that next slide. There we go.
Hey there, everybody.
Jason, you on? I'll promote Dolores too. So here we go. Getting there.
Yeah. And I'm sorry to say to everybody that's still on, we did have a power outage, and it does appear, Mike, do you still have the Q&A questions up? They disappeared from my list.
Oh, really? Oh, goodness. So I do have them up, the Q&A.
Okay, so it was preserved on your screen. That was
Yeah.
interesting.
Okay.
Sorry about this, everybody.
Is it sharing now, or should I stop sharing and try again?
It's not showing up on our screen. So maybe when people start asking more questions, it'll come back on, but I can.
Okay. Trish is back too.
Yeah.
I've been back. I put in the Q&A that I was back. It was a power outage, and I have been able to see the screens as I've been following. Mike, you did a nice job just wrapping up those slides.
Oh, well,
Thank you.
well,
Thanks for being the pinch
Yeah.
hitter there.
All right,
no
let
problem
me
at
pull
all.
the screens back up. Let's see. Thanks for everybody's patience. That was unexpected. All right. So as I mentioned, it does look like on some of our screens, the questions have gone away, but Mike still has them. So if you guys want to keep asking questions, once we get to the Q&A portion, we will.
Yeah, there's 13 questions now, so quite a bit of questions to.
Yeah, that's perfect. Ms. Joy, if anybody that asked a question, if they want to resubmit, that would be helpful. Otherwise, we will, it sounds like it was preserved on Mike's screen since he managed to stay on. So we will continue using that. But we were.
Well, while you do some of that, Jason, I'll take Miss Joy's question about delays for the other projects. So we have already began, I mean, as part of all of our projects, have been working to actively pull from every other locations as well, not just in Virginia, but other projects across the country that Lumen has to try to work through closing and prioritizing those. So at this time, it would be difficult for us to say yes, because at any point in terms of there being an opportunity to redirect, we certainly will. You know, if I'm a consumer and I see global supply changes that are interrupted, and logically, you know, I don't want to say there will be, but I could anticipate that there could still be, right? I mean, we see that the delays in the products we're ordering at home are potentially getting delayed. Sometimes things are there and the next week they're not. And so we're doing our very best to try to make sure that we stay on track with that schedule. We understand that that's important. Those are commitments that Lumen, as well as the state, has made to bring the services to you. So we are working to do everything that we can to bring that forward. Right now, we're not in a position to say that there will be a delay, because we're still working towards those projects. They're not everything that we're doing. The project material list is different on those projects in some cases than others. So it really will depend, and we are committed to providing those updates as quickly as we can to the team and work through that. So I think it's a little premature at this point to say fully that we're going to say yes, there is, and give you a date, because we're still committed to trying to work through the schedule as we have already. So thank you, Jody. I know that probably is a long-winded answer to something that you'd like to have a yes or no to, but it's a little bit more complicated.
And then let's go to Mike. Mike, there was a question earlier. I'm not seeing it on the screen right now, but there was a question regarding the contract. Actually, I was going to go for the contract and the penalties associated with missing any deadlines associated with this particular project. It was Ms. Rowland had submitted it earlier.
Right. There's actually two related questions, and I apologize for Zoom not having the question and answers up for the people who dropped off. I don't understand. Well, I guess there's no way to republish them, so I'll take that role and answer these live. There's a question from Becky Ellis. What happens to funding for this project if delays and problems continue? In other words, are those of us at the end of the list at risk of never seeing fiber? And I'm going to combine that with Heather Rowland's question. Are there penalties built into the contract that are triggered when Lumen misses its timetable? So the first thing to mention is that this is the fourth project that the Albemarle Broadband Authority and Albemarle County have had with DHCD as our partner. And it is a partnership more so than an actual procurement. So it's a combination of funds are in play here that the eventual network does not belong to the county nor the broadband authority. The network itself is a continuing asset that Lumen and eventually their new company, Brightspeed, will own and operate. So there's no government ownership or operation of the resources and the infrastructure that's put in to make this project happen. So it's a little bit of understanding that we have to have. It's not a procurement of government property. So the property, the infrastructure will continue to belong to Lumen. Now that doesn't answer the question. So, if delays or problems continue, what generally happens is the Lumen will come to the broadband authority and ask for an extension of deadline. And that will then have to be reviewed by DHCD. And in cases where there have been delays, DHCD reviews that request and then either authorizes or comes to us and says, we've got to work with our partner, in this case, Lumen and CenturyLink, and put together what is called a corrective action plan. So if things really go awry and we see additional delays, et cetera, we'll have to put together a corrective action plan as partners to convince DHCD that we're going to get back on schedule. So that's the way that this will work. To answer the real big question that everyone has, and that is there the potential that we'll never see fiber? And my response to that is no. I have to caveat that, but I certainly don't see that as a potential happening. DHCD will work with us. We'll work with CenturyLink Lumen and eventually Brightspeed, and we will deliver fiber based on the contract. If we don't, DHCD has the right to not provide the funding. So if something happens, they'll stop the project and then we will have to work with them to figure out how to restart it. But in the 4 years that I've worked with the program, we've never had a case where we've stopped and not received the funding from DHCD. I hope that's a really good question. The combined questions that were just answered or asked, I hope I've provided a good answer. And if there's more information needed, once again, you can either send me an email. I think most people have my email, or give me a call, 434-296-5891, and I'll explain it further. Appreciate that. So
yep. Thank
yes.
you for that. And then referencing specifically, I believe the Gilbert Station area, because they were one of the ones that people had been able to put in some orders. And I see Mike in the chat has added a question about what I believe is a Gilbert Station order. For those residents who are in one of the areas that is under kind of an extensive delay, but perhaps they were able to put in an order. What is going to happen with that order and that date that they have received? And will they need to start this process over again when it comes to ordering service if they've placed an order?
Great question. And first of all, I want to apologize for that. Our services, when we originally set up the area for deployment, we were still set on track for that. And so within the 45 days, it looks like we were making some improvements on the platform, so it was allowing the order to come in. Though for Gilbert Station, due to the change in the date, our care team is going back through and updating customers as we've given them the update on the due date right now. They will say that it is currently slated for a 6/30 date, which is, again, our best estimate, and we hope to improve upon that. But you do not need to re-register for your services, and your billing will not commence until we have enabled the services. So that, Mike, if that was in Gilbert Station, hopefully that would be the answer. You do not need to do something new. They will contact you via their automated services to let you know that your order is delayed, and that they will, once the order is released from hold, then they will go ahead and reschedule that for enough time, reach out to you and reschedule a time that'll work for you.
Okay, Jason, since I have the set of questions, Heather also asked a question about delays due to problems in the global supply chain. Why is Lumen not revising its target dates later in the project? I think this is specific for the two larger projects, both Stony Point and then Rosemont all the way to Box Holly. So those two significant projects, why are those target dates not being delayed? I mean, yeah. So Trish.
Again, it's, one of the things that we continue to work through is this is an agreement. We work in good faith with the partnership to deliver on the dates that we have. We're not at a point where we want to say, hey, absolutely, the date is going to be X. If we were encouraged to do so, we could obviously, anytime there's a delay, you would say, I would push it out 2 months or 3 months, whatever the case is. That's not our goal here. Our goal is to stay as true to the timeline that we originally committed to. And as such, we continue to put those pressures back on our procurement, our vendors, and look for solutions so that we can keep holding to the timeline that we created. The communication and the process to go back to the DHCP to say, hey, we've got a delay, is not one that we want to actively pursue unless there's really no other option to us. And that's why, we're sitting on April 1st. It's too early to say that something in September can't not be improved and or cannot be met. So the timeline's a little too early for us to be able to communicate that. I'm gonna have to cough here.
We are getting a lot of questions, obviously related to those concerns about supply chain, those concerns about the timeline and delays. I'm going to put up the easy one, and I think Mike might already have the document close by. The deadline for completion is 18 months from signing the contract. When is the deadline for this entire project? And before Mike answers, I will say what Mike mentioned earlier about everybody sitting together and a request to extend the deadline for the project. That is, that this is the deadline that he's talking about, is the opportunity to extend that project in the event that for whatever reason they're not going to be able to meet that timeline. But Mike, do you have the deadline specifically up?
Yes, the current deadline for VATI 21 is December 5th, 2022. So that's and it goes back. There's another question here. I'm trying to go through them as they came in back on 12/16 p.m. So early on, Dan asked about what does it mean to be complete, and he mentions that hookups or installations continue for weeks and months. So when the order happens, yes, you can order anytime after the order comes in. And it may go on for months, and you could wait 6 months to place your order. So you're exactly right, Dan. It is about the passings. We have to limit the installation schedule to when the orders can happen, but weeks and months can pass and people can continue to place orders. They may be on vacation, they may have other reasons for not placing their order. I think he's asked, will CenturyLink talk about projections on an approximate time frame from their definition of complete to when all customers who want to be hooked up are hooked up in a given area? So I think that's more about efficiency. Does it make a lot of more sense for everyone to order around the same time, and will that help more people get connected? In other words, can you send a tech out and do multiple installs, thereby saving a lot of time? So Trish, you have a way to address that, or does it have to be on a serial item, meaning one by one, or is there a way a community can work together and have a technician spend a whole day connecting people? Just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, it would be nice if we could have an assembly line of street by street to go down. Unfortunately, that's not how the current product is not built that way. So we do provide each of the installation windows is personalized to you within a 2-hour window. We do anticipate that it's going to take up to 4 hours for the installation to be completed, because it is not a greenfield, meaning a new home. We do all the inside work and anything that's needed in order to establish that service for you. And so that can take a little bit of time depending on your particular home. And so as a result, we do the appointments based on who first in, first come, first serve, essentially. So if you come into it, we'll give you the next available time slot that we have, and any following ones will be in that production line. we do anticipate that as customers are coming in, that they will, because of the way we have the market launches, we know that market launches are going to be sort of spread apart. And so to that extent, those that are within that 30-day window from the next market will certainly have more of that time and availability for those installations. So certainly there's some opportunity there. The further we get into the timeline, so if you're at the very end of the program, ideally a lot of customers were already going to be signed up and scheduled to have those installations done. So once you get towards the end, really, it's really that neighborhood that's really going to be driving that, and you're really you're getting most of those technicians out to your neighborhood anyway. So I hope that helps.
I'm gonna Dan did put in a follow-up asking more about the timeline for when customers are going to get their service, when they're going to be up and running in a given project area once completion has happened. And I'm going to explain it to you guys in a way that I hope makes sense and is a little bit on the more positive side, because the opportunity here in these VATI projects is to make sure that there is service available to the door. Now, not everybody has to sign up for that service the moment that it's there. And we get this question sometimes from people who are worried that they're going to miss their opportunity, that if they don't sign up by a certain time, that they're not going to get to sign up for this service. So the commitment is to make sure that it is available down the street and to the door. Whether you actually are getting people to sign up, that is open after. And so once a project is complete and people can sign up, then that is, it's not like there's a period where then it closes and people can no longer sign up. So whether there's within these programs, there isn't a timeline for when people would be able to sign up. Or a deadline because we want people to be able to sign up no matter what point in the process they are, as long as their project area has been completed. So Dan, I hope that clarifies a little bit more.
Moving back, there's another question about Gilbert Station Road, which we've already received through email, I think, with Shelton. I just want to make sure that Shelton's question is answered too, and then we can keep moving here. So Shelton, if you have additional questions, please, send BAOO@albemarle.org an email, but I think we're addressing your specific instance there.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
I think I need to help. I'm not explaining some of the challenges with the product in terms of why there's the timing of the delay to why we're now sharing that and what we've been working through. So if you're not familiar with construction, our construction has the design. So as we work from project to project, our engineers are working through, we have a general idea of what type of, how many households we're going to pass, what type of services and equipment as a whole. However, you cannot order the finalized equipment until you get through and you've done your easements, you understand your property, if there's any challenges or anything else that we've been looking through. And so once that engineering is signed and sealed, generally that's when, we always have orders coming in for product, right? That's not that we haven't been doing that. The problem has been there may be certain types of equipment that have now, we may have 30 of all of this, but we are still missing 2 or 3 or 5 of one particular element to finalize that completion. And so they're partial deliveries of where, we're not that we haven't been proactive in trying to get that equipment. It's just that our vendors, and as we try to source from other places, they're also struggling to get those in time for that. And you're right, we've known about our projects. We have been working, and so has every other communication vendor that has been working to try to be proactive. As we know, our summers are heavy in construction. We've been placing orders well last year into trying to put a lot of that equipment in place. As those vendors have struggled to say, hey, we're going to get that delivery to you in February. Well, they didn't come in February. Maybe it's March. They gave us partial shipments of equipment that we've needed. As we've been working through, that's what's catching up in terms of sort of that process of why there's a couple of delays in there. So it's not that the engineering, it's not that the work that isn't being done. There are specific elements that we're waiting on to be able to close that. So I hope that helps. The second question that came in that was around price increases. Yes, we as consumer have seen inflation go up on our prices. For this particular program, these are committed funds. There's nothing that gets passed on to you as a consumer in terms of these delays or product changes and that we're having to work through. There's not in anything that point that you're going to specifically receive. And so from that, Mike, am I speaking accurately from there? They're not going to receive a bill for any changes in that regard. So the only thing that could happen, and which we have also declared in our deck, is that one of the specials that we're offering right now is with quantum fiber. Currently, the drops would normally have a fee associated with them. And right now, those drops are essentially free to everybody. So in the current program, there's no charges for the drop placement. If you were part of our earlier VATI programs in the prior years, that was $1.55 per foot on a charge. So, we paid up to 650 feet of that, and anything the overage was on the customer. And you had to choose whether you wanted to spend that money at that time. That's certainly your choice. But with our VATI 2021, we've launched with us absorbing the buried drop cost for all of our customers. We may change that as the process goes forward, but we wanted to demonstrate there are costs that we're absorbing, and we understand and appreciate everybody's patience as we go through the material challenges as getting these products launched to you. But we'll hopefully, like I said, we're working to try to keep on that schedule we've had, and we're looking for, as we get more information and further updates, we'll update as quickly as we can.
Right. Circling back one more time to Gilbert Station. There's a question about the $65 charge that those individuals that were able to place their orders, and either what is being done or how can refunds be handled if that's something that somebody would like to request at this time.
Yeah, I've actually, for those that we did have, I haven't, in terms they haven't come into the dispatch of the field, but the care organizations, we'll request them to go back through and say any of those customers that were in delayed, they can you can certainly request a refund, or you can cancel either way and wait until it's actually launched. It's up to you. That's the flexibility of the program. If you would prefer to keep it there, keep the $65 there, it's not going to continue to do a recharge because we haven't actually, from a prepaid, we haven't actually installed the service yet. So there's not going to be there shouldn't be a recurring charge. But certainly, if you have any questions, you're always welcome to go to our Q.com site, speak to a representative, and they'll be glad to help answer any additional questions.
And then
okay, I've got a couple more that have been there since early in the webinar, and the first one is a technical question, I think, for CenturyLink Lumen, and it's about existing phone lines in the house. I think this is related to people who would still like to have the availability of a landline, with the phone being somewhere other than close to the new modem. And I think in this particular case, there's also a question about if I sign up, will I need a new modem? So I'll turn that one over to you, Trish. And thanks for putting that frequently asked question up there. Hopefully that answers Libby's question. Trish, you want to chime in?
Absolutely. So with fiber, most folks will transition to a voice over IP solution for their voice. And so, and be able to leverage Wi-Fi and be able to make your phone calls using that technology. If you would like to retain a copper-based service, that is a separate fee and a separate charge. So when you place the order, you need to be able to indicate a separate feature for that and indicate that you want to retain a copper-only voice line and that you do want to go to fiber. At this time, we are not forcing any migrations to transition from a copper I would expect, as technology continues to improve and transition, we will probably go to all fiber. Our 911 services are moving to a fiber based with E911 services. So they're transitioning and making the leap as well. And I understand the customer's, preference over time, and certainly that'll be your choice to make. Until at some point we'll be making a decision to move forward. But if that were the case, you'd receive a notification on that. And I don't have anything on the horizon immediately for that, so that option's available for you. But certainly, technology is moving at a fast pace, and we're certainly trying to move the entire county into the newer services.
Thanks, Trish. Hopefully that answered it. Thanks for posting the voice service frequently asked questions. Justin has asked, can the county speak to any specific deliverable deadlines that Lumen has to meet in order to receive taxpayer funding to implement these vital broadband projects? Yes, there are deadlines that include activation. So we need to not submit for payment until activations are verified. So it's a performance-based. It's not really a contract, it's an agreement. The way that the VATI program works is that the partner has their funding put aside. So they first deplete their own funding, and then, meaning the ISP, whichever ISP is the partner with a local government organization. And then next, the local government organization goes through and verifies that requests for payment based on activation will be made or denied. So we work through that and will not pay until we verified that things are in place and work. And finally, the very last phase of that is the third process, which is when DHCD funding comes into play. And that generally is later into the project, and sometimes actually happens after the project has fully completed. So the funding that we receive from DHCD takes a few extra steps, has to be approved by DHCD. The other thing to let everyone know is that our team meets on a weekly basis. So on a weekly basis, we're going through and looking at how things are going. And then during that week, we also take questions and work together to make sure that we're on time. And, we are very apologetic about the delays. We're working to make sure everybody gets a good experience here and gets to the fiber connectivity that they deserve. So great question, Justin. Hopefully it answered it well. You can give me a call again, or we can set up a separate meeting and talk about that. So I'm good. Hopefully that worked.
And then I'd like to take Miss Ellis's question. Has CenturyLink been involved in other VATI projects, and have they completed their contract on the original schedule? As if you've been here for some of the earlier ones, one of the things that we spent a lot of time on in the earlier webinars is that this is actually the county's fourth VATI award, and I believe the third with CenturyLink. And each one has been a learning process. One of the great examples of that learning process are these webinars. Previously, there were other means, primarily email, of connecting with residents that were interested, that were trying to get signed up. And there was kind of a bottleneck of information when it came to getting people answers. It required a lot of emails. This opportunity to have you guys on the line and asking these questions and getting answers, that is one of the most important developments in our progression and learning. So from our office, we have done what we can to improve each iteration. And every project like this has hiccups that we have to face and we have to consider and we have to learn from, so that way we can move forward. Previously, communications was a big part of it. We hope that these opportunities are valuable to you guys, and we hope that that being able to ask your questions is helpful. As to performance on the prior ones, like I said, there have been hiccups in every project for lots of different things. This is one of the largest projects that we have taken on, and so we expected there to be challenges, and certainly a supply chain issue is something that that we were prepared to hear about. We certainly wish that we could have gotten you guys more information sooner. And so for that, we do, we hope you'll understand, as soon as we have information that we can share, we are going to do so. And we will do what we can to make sure that as we are watching these other projects come closer to their launch date, we are going to spend as much time as we can verifying any hiccups that might come up, so that before we send you guys any reminders about your launch date, we will have that confirmed with everybody involved. So with that, we are at our, we've got about 2 minutes left. We're at our hour. If anybody has any more questions, please feel free to pop them into the Q&A. If we have additional questions, or if anybody wants to discuss their particular circumstance, we've already gotten a couple of emails, please baao@albemarle.org. And Trish, this it's Mr. Hogan again, trying to get a little bit more clarity on this, and it sounds like he really wants to know more about the timeline for installs and any backlogs. And then, since it's still going to be in your wheelhouse, I'll also throw in Mike's question regarding specific equipment being held up due to the supply chain for Gilbert Station specifically. So let's give them a chance to hear from us about it.
Yeah, so we're not going to go into probably all the equipment components. I mean, that's an option that Mike and Jason and others, we discuss on those to share those details, because that's what we have to provide in terms of whether it be fiber pedestals or whatever equipment. So we're not providing a, how many quantity, this version, this part number to them, but we are providing general highlights of what kind of general equipment we are currently delayed on. The question about the installation timeframe. So the installation timeframe generally is going to be, you have your buried site check that will be issued as soon as the order is placed. And from there, typically it's around 7 to 10 days. 7 to 10 days of when your order is going to be available for scheduling. We have seen some instances where if we have a high demand, and I think that came with maybe Snow Hill. I've been watching Snow Hill orders coming in, and we've seen them already booked for the 15th, 16th, all the way through 22nd, 23rd, I think. That was about a day or two ago. So to the extent that we're getting those customers in, so the sooner you get in, the sooner that installation will happen. But generally, you're probably within 5 to 10 days of that, knowing that probably more the 10, because the 3 days, if the ground is soft on buried drops, they'll be a little delayed, but they usually come in within 3 days. So I'd say give it a solid 10 days. That's usually what we're going to be looking at.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. And thank you all for your questions. As always, the most important part of these meetings, of these webinars, are the questions that come in and our opportunity to answer. As we close, I want to say again, anybody that has any other questions that they'd like to discuss, anything they'd like to bring up, please feel free to reach out to us. Mike, did you want to?
Yeah, just in response to Becky's, the first two VATI projects we did with CenturyLink, they did deliver under contract with no extensions. The fiber project, the 2020, had 2 extensions. So just to answer her question, it's not under contract, it was under, they had to extend the schedule. Now that was, somewhat like pre-pandemic and into the pandemic on 2020. So there was some grace given on 2020, and it was the first fiber project that they did at a large scale in Albemarle. So just to let you know, it is, the first 2 were in schedule. 2020 was not. So I hope that answers your question. All right.
All right. Well, thank you all very much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you all at the next webinar on, Mike, do we have the date on that? Is that May?
Oh boy, yeah, you're challenging me, huh? Look
It's
up
on
the
the
calendar.
deck. Slide through.
Yeah,
Just flip back
Yeah,
a few pages. You can
it is the
cheat
6th. It
there.
is May
There it
6th.
is.
May 6th. Yes,
Thanks,
May
Trish.
6th.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you all again. And we will see you all next time.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. We
everyone.
appreciate it.
Yeah.